And Suella Braverman has said that weekly pro-Palestinian marches have polluted the streets with hate which cannot go on. The Home Secretary claimed London streets have been used to valorise terrorism and further action was necessary. Mrs Braverman said some of the placards and chants in evidence on Saturday's march in the centre of the capital were clearly criminal. Her words raised the prospect that she could be under pressure, putting police under pressure to ban the marches. And of course, the Prime Minister is under pressure to sack her. So should she stay or should she go? Let's ask tonight's newsmaker, former Home Office Minister and broadcaster Anne Widdecombe. Anne, great to see you again. You know politics inside out, the drama, the egos. What is Suella's game here? What's she up to?
Oh, I think she possibly is on manoeuvres, but I also think she's totally convinced by what she's saying. She believes in what she is saying. And I think that the further comments that she has made is very simply a warning to the Prime Minister that she won't be shut up. She won't be kept quiet. She's going to go on saying what she says. But, you know, why are we handing, or why is the government handing the police the responsibility for stopping the marches? It would be so easy to pass a law, and it could have been done this week as an emergency measure, to pass a law that says that on Armistice Day and on Remembrance Sunday, where they're separate as they usually are, there will be no marches in any cause at all, not even those that I passionately believe in or you passionately believe in.
Yeah.
No march at all, and that the veterans will be the only show in town.
Well, indeed, sadly, you're not the Home Secretary, Anne. Now, as just mentioned there, that Suella Braverman has said this is a developing story. Just today, she said these marches have polluted Britain's streets. That's right, polluted. And she's called them hate marches, as we know. She previously called the illegal crossings an invasion. Is this language appropriate, Anne, for a Home Secretary?
Oh, the language is perfectly appropriate. But as you know, my big problem with Suella is that she says all the right things. I've never yet disagreed with anything she said, but she doesn't deliver. You know, and it's all very well about invasions, but what's she going to do about the invasion? You know, how is she going to resist the invasion? How is she going to repel the invasion? Well, the answer is she's not. You know, so that is the big problem. I don't worry about her language. I worry about her inactivity.
Yes, and actually I nicked that line from you just a couple of days ago in my Big Opinion monologue, where my main criticism of Braverman is that she's all mouth and no trousers. But let's talk about these marches, Anne. If they continue every weekend for the foreseeable, does this pose the authorities with a dilemma? Braverman has referred to further action to deal with them. What might that look like?
Well, I think where there are banners which are very clearly inspired by hate, I mean, where you've got anti-Semitic banners, where you've had anti-Semitic chants, then those things are quite clearly unlawful. And the police should act. And of course they don't, because they want to be pacific, they want to be diplomatic. And I say they don't act, they don't often act, they don't act as often as they should.
Yeah.
But I think you're quite right, that both with Just Stop Oil, which is a very different situation, but they do make life impossible for ambulances, for emergency vehicles, for ordinary citizens. Just Stop Oil, and now the continued pro-Palestinian marches, or I would say Hamas marches, quite honestly, that I think you do say, you know, enough is enough. And I think Suella is right. Where you've got hate banners, and not all of them are like that, but where you've got hate banners, that is polluting the streets of London. She's got it dead right.
And let's talk about police bias. That's another allegation made by Suella Braverman in her Times article this week in terms of how they handled the protests. Very different with BLM and Extinction Rebellion versus the lockdown protesters. Let me quote for you, Anne, an anonymous police officer writing in today's Mail on Sunday newspaper. James and Josh, if you've got that full-frame graphic, brilliant stuff. Here's what this person wrote. Serving police officer. Suella was right. It's obvious to me and many fellow officers there is a clear bias in policing. This playing favourites is a symptom of years of wokery and political correctness that have completely transformed the culture of the Met Police, and which mean the force cannot cope any longer with disputes that involve inter-ethnic conflict. Put simply, senior officers are terrified of being accused of racism if they fully enforce the law against pro-Palestinian protesters. Now, thanks to Professor Matthew Goodwin for finding that quote on Twitter earlier. Do you share this serving officer's concerns about the culture of British policing?
Yes, I do. And I think he's absolutely right to say that the Met, and I mean police in general across the country, are paralysed by the fear of being called racist. It's affecting stop and search. It affected the actions that were taken in Rotherham, where young girls were abandoned because the police were terrified they were going to be accused of racism. They are afraid of that. And my line is, we've got to get back to the police as being completely neutral. They don't wear rainbow shoelaces. They don't wear any symbols other than a poppy. They don't wear any symbols which are not part of the uniform. And the uniform itself is a declaration that they protect everybody. They don't just choose.
Most definitely. And today was Remembrance Sunday. Do you have family connections to the war?
Well, I think anybody my age is going to say yes to that question. My uncle was a chaplain in Monty's army in the desert. My father was at sea dealing with naval armaments throughout the war. My mother, who never worked, she brought us up, but my mother did war work in the war because she thought that was essential. I don't think you'll speak to anybody of my age who won't be able to say my mother or my father or my uncle or my aunt did such and such.
Well, I salute your family members for their service to this country, Anne, and I thank you for your service to this show, and we look forward to seeing you in a week's time.
I'll be here.
Looking forward. What about that? My three favourite words, the brilliant Anne Widdecombe, always a highlight.